Hey everybody, stay tuned. We're just experiencing a bit of technical difficulties. We'll be right up and running in a second. Hey everybody, sorry about that. We just had our video feed drop out on us. Gotta love those live stream technical glitches. But we are back up and running now and looks like everything's running smoothly. So without further ado, welcome to the second Foap Show episode. My name is Philly and I'm from Foap, and I'm here to tell you all about our mission winners from the last 2 weeks. New missions and upcoming missions that we have going on. Also photo news and some other cool stuff that's going to be happening today. So let's get started. First things first, let's talk about photographic history. Our news today from that department comes in a birthday format, and today would be the birthday of photographer Ernst Haas. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with his work, but this is a pioneering photographer who was born today in 1921. Now, Haas was a very cool photographer. He actually shot for Life, he shot for Vogue. He also captured artistic style images as well as documentation photography for World War II. Now, to get his first camera, Haas actually went to the Vienna black market and traded a 20-pound block of margarine for a Rolleiflex camera. And I mean, that's dedication in my opinion. You gotta find a 20-pound block of margarine in the first place and then hit the black market. Outrageous. So his photography book, The Creation, was released in 1971 and was considered a bestseller in terms of the photography book world. So definitely check out his work if you ever get a chance. Next up, we're going down to contemporary news. And first things first, we've got some lighting news coming from the company Aputure. If you haven't heard of Aputure, they make video lighting, usually in the LED style, and they have some fantastic new products. Now, Aputure is something that we use in-house here at my studio. So what you're seeing now is Aputure at work. Now, we aren't sponsored by them, but we did want to mention it to you because these are very affordable lights that you can use in your own home studio. The first thing that they've got coming out is a full color LED pixel bar known as the Infinibar PB12. This promises to be an infinite style bar that you can connect one-to-one and create an endless stream. They actually have a name for this. It's called the Infinite Color Blend Design. So it promises that as you have these things connected, you can have an infinite color blend from one to the other without any gaps or any seams or anything like that. Next up, we have the 4-foot long and the 1-foot long PT4C and the PT1C respectively. These are kind of lightsaber style tube lights with LEDs. These are great because they offer, a little bit of flexible lighting. You can kind of pop them into the background, slide them under a desk, for example, to add some fill light. These are really useful. You must have seen them by now all over sets, all over music videos. They're very affordable and they're very cool. Now they also have 9 system effects and 7 pixel effects, so you can make them do all sorts of strobe madness and all sorts of color blending designs. Very cool stuff there. Finally, they also have the 200XS and the 100XS. Now these are much more similar to the continuous video lights that you see pretty much us using right now, and they offer between 200 watts and 100 watts respectively, and they are balanced actually with an adjustable color temperature between 2700 and 6500 degrees Kelvin. Now this gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of making sure that your light balance is matching any other sort of ambient light that you might be exposed to. So fantastic light right there. And one last thing that I wanted to mention about it is it does have a 95 CRI. That is a color reproduction index. What that essentially means when you're looking for lights is how well the light actually picks up different tones. So this is very valuable, for example, when you're using anything that needs to hit skin tones, because you want those skin tones to be reproduced as accurately as possible. You can find out more about these products at aputure.com. Check them out today. Next up, we have Sigma with some news in that they will be announcing 3 new lenses for Nikon's Z mount cameras. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the Z mount, but it's Nikon's mirrorless line. For the time being, it's basically been Nikon's proprietary sort of mount, but they're opening up their doors a little bit and Sigma's coming right in. The lenses that they're offering is a 16mm 1.4, the 30mm 1.4, and a 56mm f1.4. Now, these lenses are all designed for the crop sensor, that's Nikon's DX size, so the crop on them will be 1.5 times, making the 30mm equivalent to about a 50, the 56 equivalent to about an 80mm, and the 16mm equivalent to about a 24mm wide angle. Very, very good quality lenses, and they'll be hitting stores very soon. So that's all the news that we have for now, but we've got something even more interesting coming right up, and that's our mission winners. Now, 2 weeks ago when we had our Foap Show, we announced that there would be a special mission coming out called the Foap Show Mission, in that we wanted to have users kind of submit photos of their gear, photos of them taking photos at, in the field, or even things spelling out the word Foap itself. Basically a bit of a free-for-all as long as it's related to photography or Foap itself. Now, we had a lot of fantastic submissions, but we could only choose 6, and here they are. So our first winner for this week is Levitating the X Pro 2 by Rosley9111. This is a great dynamic photo. I personally don't recommend doing this with your camera. There's always a good chance that you might drop it. As you can see, our subject here does have a nice firm grip on that neck strap, but this would put the absolute fear in me. Still, it did make for a very dynamic photo, and it really captured that dynamism just with that little bit of slack just before the camera was about to snap back. Really fantastic stuff, really cool photo. Thanks a lot for the submission. Next up, we have Photograph of a Photographer Taking Pictures of Mountains. This one comes to us from Foper Jen Lang. Now, I actually really like this photo. It might be my favorite one inside of this mission's winners. And it really just kind of captures to me the whole aspect of going out into nature and taking photos of landscapes myself. I've done it a lot of times, and there's nothing really like bringing your tripod, your camera, and your kit bag out into the field, enjoying a bit of a hike, setting up your tripod, setting up your gear, and really getting to work on capturing the perfect lighting and the perfect framing for your composition. This is, to me, really speaks a lot, and as they say, a photo is worth 1,000 words, and here, this one just really does that right out the block. Coming up next, we have our third winner, and this one is of a woman taking photos in a tulip field in spring, and it comes from us from Foper Alina Boo. Now, I chose this one myself because I really like the idea here that you have a photographer taking a photo, but you can actually see their composition in their LCD screen. And on top of that, this composition within a composition is actually really nicely composed. So you've got a really cool inception thing going here where you've got great composition on the photo that we're looking at, as well as the photo that the photographer in the photo is taking. Wow, that's a lot of inception. I almost got twisted all around with that one. Coming up next, we have our fourth winner, and that is a photographer taking pictures of people jumping at Mount Bromo, an active volcano in Indonesia. This one comes to us from Foper Ferry Bonbon. Now, I don't know how many of you have either taken photos of a group shot or have been involved in a group shot photo, but one great way to get people's kind of defenses down is to ask them to all jump into the air. You see that it barely ever ends up coming out perfectly, with some people barely jumping or jumping too late. But what that ends up doing is it kind of diffuses the tension and the stress of the situation, and it really makes everybody start kind of giggling and laughing about how preposterous the whole thing is. But also on top of that, if you end up nailing the shot and everybody's up in the sky at the same time, there's just this moment of brief relaxation in people's faces, and you end up capturing some real magic. So this photo right here does an excellent job of really showing that off. And I might also add that it is our only black and white winner from this week, so fantastic work there. Coming up next for our fifth winner. This one I wasn't initially convinced about, but after looking at it for, a couple minutes, going back to it a couple hours later, it really won me over. It's called Kitten Cleaning a Camera Lens on an Analog Minolta by C. Hudson. Now, I really like this image. It's got just a lot of really cute stuff going on in it. It's got the cat lying on top of the iPad. Gotta love that. It's also got the cat cleaning the lens. Probably not the best cleaning solution that you would have for your lens, but I'm guessing this is a bit of an older analog camera, so, it's not the brand newest thing that you have to baby the entire time. But what it did do is it made for an excellent and very amusing photo. We had a great time sharing it around here, and we hope you have a great time enjoying it right now. Moving up to our final winner for today, we have Foap made with camera equipment. And, oh, this is not the one, my mistake. This is Foap made with different photo accessories. We have actually made a mistake on this one, so we will correct that in the future. But what's really cool about this is we had a lot of submissions with different camera equipment or accessories spelling out the word Foap. And I mean, it was really difficult to choose from one. In fact, we were pretty much down to the wire today trying to decide at the last minute which of these we were going to choose between. And ultimately at the last second, this is the one that ended up winning out. Now, it's very cool to do these kind of photos, but it's also very hard. You have to remember to keep kind of the arrangement of the objects so that certain letters don't appear larger than others. It's also very difficult to make sure that the letters are somewhat clear. Now this one here, it ended up winning due to the clarity. From a distance, you can see it spelled out as Foap as well as close up. So fantastic work. And sorry about the mistake there. We will get that corrected during our next broadcast. Moving on, we can also expect another Foap Show Mission for our next show. So stay tuned for that. We don't know exactly when it will be announced, but keep an eye on that app and you'll be first to see it. So moving on from there, we'll be going on to our other Foap Mission winners. And this one's all about a Foap Mission battle. Now, if you're not familiar with mission battles, these are where you have two separate different objects or subjects that are vying for competition. Now, in the past, we've had landscapes versus cityscapes, sunrises versus sunsets. This week's mission was wood versus metal. Now, we had a lot of fantastic results, but after everybody's submissions were tallied and the comments were taken into consideration, we had metal win out. And I mean, metal does look very cool. It has that industrial style to it. And it really gives off a lot of opportunity to showcase your lens clarity and other things that your camera might be able to really highlight. Now, our first winner here that we want to focus on is an image called Soldador by G.E. Oliveira. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but this is a very fantastic photo that really, to me, captures the feeling of being inside of a studio working. We've got a mechanic here. Apparently he's soldering something. I'm not personally sure. You might be sawing something, but we've got some really cool sparks shooting off of that. We can see that this is using a slower shutter to really add that dynamism from the sparks. You've got all those sparks kind of streaking around. I'm assuming maybe 1/30th of a second, maybe 1/5 of a second, taken with a tripod. Hard to really tell. But on top of that, you have this nice tonal quality, these kind of rich browns that really are accentuated by this classic automobile in the back. So fantastic work there, really captured that metal spirit. Moving on to our second highlight from the wood versus metal mission is an old blacksmith working with iron in his atelier. This photo comes from us, or to us, from Foaper Dia Olteanu. And once again, sorry if I've mixed that up, but this is a great photo that shares a lot of similar qualities as the last one. As you can tell, there's more sparks coming out here. It has that dynamic nature. In fact, when I first saw these two images, I was convinced that they were from the same photographer. But actually, it turns out that these are two separate, completely different photographers, probably from completely different parts of the world. Now, what's interesting about this is you still see these kind of streaks, but as you can tell, the streaks are not as streaked out as before. Now, this identifies that the shutter used was a little bit faster, but it wasn't quite as fast as something like, let's say, 1/250th of a second, which would have captured these sparks in an almost frozen state. I'm assuming this is looking like 1/125th, maybe 1/80th of a second. Very, very cool. On top of that, we have the tonal quality. Now, the tonal quality of the colors here are very similar to what you saw in the last image. This is a lot of what kind of gave me that confusion when I was initially looking at the photo, trying to decide if this photo belonged to the same user. Now, that kind of tonal quality gives it a really rustic feeling, and I think that really emphasizes this old school blacksmith just going about his business. Fantastic work there. Thanks a lot, Dia Oltiano. We're going to be moving right along to our third winner from the wood versus metal contest, and that would be our view of a retro typewriter from Foaper Miss Bennett. Now, this is a great photo. I personally just absolutely love photos of old machinery, in particular typewriters. Like, I've been using a typewriter for quite some time. I got one back when I was about 7 to 8 years old that my dad picked up at an antique shop. And the first thing I did is I jumped on that and really started playing with those keys. I don't think I actually wrote anything on it for the first 2 years. I would just try to get the keys stuck. But all of that kind of comes back to me when I look at this photo. It really just does a great job of capturing the mystic wonder of just what the hell is this little thing? How do I operate it? Who was using this? So I really appreciate this photo. Again, our only black and white one that we are highlighting from this particular mission. So once again, thank you very much, Miss Bennett. Fantastic work. Moving on, we have our upcoming Foap missions. Now, these are the missions that will be going on either soon or we already have active that you can join today. The first one is not active just yet. What will be starting tomorrow? And that is our latest country challenge. Now, if you're not familiar with the country challenge, this is a type of mission that we offer to various countries. It's geo-specific, so you have to be part of the country that it belongs to, and it allows you to kind of highlight your favorite parts of the place that you're from. Now, our country challenge tomorrow, we don't have a lot of details about it just yet, but essentially how it works is we'll be having 55 countries featured. That is an amazing amount. We're looking at, like, I think, a quarter of the entire world's population, or world's countries, I should rather say. And I mean, that really opens up a lot of opportunities for our viewers to check if they're one of the featured countries that can submit. This also is a very cool format because it allows users to kind of interact with each other a little bit more. We encourage people to leave comments and to kind of tell us why this photo is their favorite. And it actually does play into our decision-making process at the end of the day. What's also very cool about this is once the winners have been tallied up, they'll be going kind of in a round-robin style to a overall best of mission, where we'll be featuring all the winners all in one mission gallery. And then you'll be able to pick the #1 winner. These country-specific challenges are very, very cool. I highly recommend you check them out or even sign up for this one coming up. One last thing that I did want to mention is there is a massive pot available of money for this mission. We're talking about $1,000 here, so definitely keep your eye on that and stay tuned for more details to come in the Foap app. Moving on, we have our current active mission, and that is our mobile series missions. This is not just one mission, but actually 6, and they all feature the ability to take photos with your mobile device and to showcase how good you can make your photos look out of there. This is actually a mission that we decided to do based on some feedback from the previous Foap show that we had, where a lot of people were concerned that Foap doesn't really care about smartphone photography. Well, that's actually not the case. We love smartphone photos. We end up getting a ton of them. And a lot of the photos that you've seen so far on the Foap show have been taken with a smartphone. Now, the mobile series missions will include 6 different styles, including architecture, portrait, food, and more. So check out our active missions page and see if you've got anything to contribute to this mobile mission that we are currently offering. Next up, we will be going to our Q&A session. But while we wait for the questions to come flooding in, we're gonna showcase a couple of the photos that we've had from our purchased photo winners, and we kind of wanted to showcase just how good the quality of the photos that we have on Foap are. So let's start up the gallery and let's have these users take a quick look. The gallery will be up for about 1 minute while we accept our photos, while we accept questions and any other comments that you might have coming in. So check out YouTube and you'll be able to add the questions to the new question section on the side of the live stream. All right, hope you enjoyed the slideshow. We'll be featuring many more photos in the weeks to come, so definitely stay tuned for that. Who knows, maybe your submission will be featured on the show. Now, our first question today is, even if we upload a full resolution photo, the app decreases its resolution. But do we still have the full resolution photos? Well, yes, we actually do have the full resolution photos. In fact, all the photos that you saw today were taken from the full resolution photo, and we then kind of cropped them to fit our 16:9 format for the live stream. Now, anytime that somebody purchases these photos, they'll be getting the full resolution shot. The reason we do this is to make sure that nobody's stealing your photos and claiming them as theirs, so it's a bit of a safety and precautionary thing. Now, if you ever want to kind of double check with us, just feel free to shoot us a message. We'll be happy to verify that your photos are in fact there and in fact full resolution. Next up, our second question. Do you prefer photos without editing? Well, in that case, I assume the user is referring to post-processing, and absolutely, we don't necessarily mind if you have any post-processing or if you've got a bunch of it, provided one simple caveat, and that is that the image doesn't look over-processed. No crazy Photoshop, no absurd saturation crunching or contrast crunching. We want to keep the photo fairly neutral. We don't want these, full green tinted images that might be as a result of some sort of matrix filter that you found. We want you to actually take the effort to control the sliders yourself and kind of showcase these images. If you're not really sure of what we mean by that, there are some rules in terms of photojournalism and how images are presented there. You're not really allowed to overly edit them there either, but our rules are a little bit more flexible. We do allow for black and white, and we do allow for color removal and things like that, but just don't go too crazy with it. The best photos end up being quite natural and quite neutral all around. Next up for our third question. Can you see too much filters on photos? We do occasionally get photos with too many filters. And the thing is, with filters, unfortunately, a lot of the time it means the photo will be disqualified. We don't really want these filtered photos too much for the same reason that I mentioned before. It ends up kind of taking away from your image and not really showing us what you can do, but rather showing us what the filter can kind of cover up or enhance. Now, that's all good and well, but it does take away from how much you've put into the photo yourself. So if you are going to use any filters, definitely stick to as neutral of a filter as you can. Simple things like color balancing filters, or maybe just something that pops the saturation a tiny bit, or maybe something that brings up the shadow levels or anything like that. You don't want to go too crazy here because you don't want to overwhelm the image with just artificial sort of nature to it. Here at Foap, we kind of have a focus on authenticity, and anytime you add too many filters, it really detracts from that. So definitely try to keep it as neutral as possible. For our next question, we have my favorite app is Foap. Well, starting with a little bit of praise. Thank you there, user. A new update should be brought into Foap. Can you give a Foap button to the best Foap user to keep at home? Oh, it sounds like somebody wants to have an actual little Foap. Yeah, I think that's something that we might be able to work on in the future. Now, we've got a few different options for what this user might be referring to here, but we're not able to kind of talk about them just yet because these are new features that will be rolling out. Now, what I can say is that there will be some stuff that you will be able to feature on your profile coming up, but I don't want to spill the beans too much. It's very hush-hush for the time being, but stay tuned. There will be some stuff that you will be able to feature not only on your profile, but potentially also at home and on your portfolio. It's going to be some useful stuff for you to get new clients and to really showcase your achievements with Foap. Moving right along to our next question. Oh, what's going on here? There we are. Any news or on the results of the EU country challenge? Okay, for this one, I actually did not know the answer, but luckily our moderator has provided me with one, so I'll just read it off here. Tomorrow, we will be starting the last stage with all the best photos. After that, we will be choosing our winners. So definitely stay tuned for that. We will be submitting those as soon as possible and announcing our winners on the Foap app. So definitely keep your eyes tuned to that. And as usual, yeah, make sure that you submit your photos to the images, to the missions as well. So that's all we have for Q&A this week. I hope you have enjoyed the second episode of the Foap Show. Next week, we're going to try to provide even more stuff, basically building with blocks every single time that we do one of these. So by the end of it, we hope to provide you with an absolute extravaganza, a bonanza, other things that rhyme with stanza, like George Costanza. Awesome. It's going to be all up in here, and you're going to get it all delivered to you, hopefully every 2 weeks, but we don't have that decided yet. But stay tuned for announcements. And as always, thank you for coming down. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your submissions. You guys make this site run, and we absolutely love everything and anything that you can submit to us, from questions to photos to comments and suggestions. So once again, thank you so much, and see you next time.